Hi everyone! Creating your own Christmas cards can be really fun, but it can also be quite daunting. You want to get it looking right. So here I'm going to give you some pointers on how to paint the quintessentially Christmassy shiny holly leaves with plenty of shape. What's key to remember is that whilst holly leaves would be smooth to the touch, except for the spikes, they actually have quite a lot of rough textured little markings on them when you really look, so we need to try and capture those for it to look realistic. I'm working here from a reference photo and I've drawn out the edges and veins on the leaves. So I begin by laying down a watery wash, firstly on the green veins and edges to the leaves, and then on the leaves themselves, everywhere except for the most prominent highlights, which I leave just as the paper. The main colour I'm using for the holly leaf itself is a mixture of a dark blue-grey with a hint of a brighter green in with it. Next, I go straight in with my darkest tone areas of the leaves. It's the same colours I'm using, only at a much thicker consistency. Now my lightest and darkest tones are in place, I can work on the mid-tones to give the leaves their form. Working with a mid-consistency wash, I concentrate on the next darkest areas first, leaving the highlights still. Then I water the mix down a little bit more and I work into areas of the highlights that I can now see are too light, creating some textured markings with the tip of my brush in those areas. Notice how I'm getting lots of little overlaps of paint, and yet they're working to my advantage to create the kind of texture that I can see there on the holly leaves. Now that the highlights are darker, I can see that some of the darker parts of the leaves need to be even darker, so I add another layer of paint to those parts, with the paint underneath being totally dry. Again, I'm getting overlaps with my paint, but it actually helps to create the texture. I then add even more texture to the areas of bright highlight using the tip of my brush and some thick paint. Now that the leaves are darker overall, I can judge that my veins should actually be darker too, so I add another layer onto those with a tiny brush when the paint around them is now completely dry. And I can now use some brown paint to create the pointy spines at the ends of each of the points of the leaves. Once I've painted the dark branch and the berries, it's easier to see what further areas of the leaves should receive another layer of paint to darken them up even more. This requires stepping back and comparing the painting to the reference photo, looking for areas in the painting to take darker. I also use this opportunity to add even more of the scratchy markings with the tip of my fine brush, using the mid and thick consistency paint to do so. So there we have some shiny 3D Christmassy holly leaves. I hope this helps you paint your own for your own Christmas cards. And if you want more instruction, there's a full real-time step-by-step tutorial of this painting, including the berries and what specific colours to use, available as part of my online school. If you've enjoyed this tip video, please visit watercolorswithwow.com for information on the materials I recommend, more tip videos, my advice blog, and lots more. Thanks for watching.